Won't you take me to that place? Won't you take me there, man? Cause you said enough, you said enough, you said enough. Cause you said enough, you said enough.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on, moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Moving on, moving
Won't you take me to that place? Take me to that place. Won't you take me to that place? Won't you take me to that place? Won't you take me there, man? Cause you said enough, you said enough, you said enough. Cause you said enough, you said enough.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Moving on, moving on.
Cause you said enough, you said enough, you said enough. Cause you said enough, you said enough.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on, moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Moving on, moving on.
Won't you take me to that place? Take me to that place. Won't you take me to that place? Won't you take me to that place? Won't you take me there, man? Cause you said enough, you said enough, you said enough. Cause you said enough, you said enough.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to.
Hi there, I'm Elegant Excalibur, your play-by-play caster for tonight, and this is...
And I'm Hyper Knight, coach of the Crusaders, and tonight's color commentary.
Today,
Go ahead.
today we'll be bringing you the Bench Boys versus Bandicoots game for Majors.
One of the first major games of the season. And if everything's right here, we're going to be starting off on Oasis. So that should be an interesting map, especially with the recent patch that came through.
Yeah, there's definitely we definitely have potential for more comp variety now, especially with the meta being up in the air after the recent patch. So we potentially might see like Death Ball, we might see Dive, we still might even see Double Shield if people are being stubborn enough to stick to that meta.
If I see a single bug on the screen, not actually, but I will be very sad.
Yeah, unfortunately, Hog's bust might mean we'll see a lot of Hog.
Hog's back. All right.
Welcome.
Well, there's a lot of different, I guess, infrastructure would be the best way to put it on these maps. So we could end up seeing a lot of different things on both sides.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this is one of the few maps where Pharaoh's viable generally, which could also mean that we might see some Echo, you know.
Yeah, especially Echo functions even better in dive than Pharah because she has a lot more one-shot potential.
Yeah, execution beam is just it exists.
Yeah. And we're already seeing a nice build-up of dive comps on both teams, so we're gonna have to see how each team can properly play this.
It's pretty close to a mirror, but with some slight changes. There's a ball on one side, and a soldier instead of a sombra. If they actually go soldier, once again, I will default back to that's an interesting pick.
It is.
No,
indeed
switching to
interesting.
sombra. Okay, it's a mirror match. Classic Overwatch.
Truly.
Capture the objective.
And here we see them take off with the Bandicoots getting a head start and getting to the jump pad first, and with the bench boys taking the middle dome. We see action taking off.
Block attack.
We see the two Winstons duking out on top of the dome while the rest of their team try to find a pick. Right now, the action is mostly poke damage, trying to find a target for them to pick off here. But we do see the two Winstons continuing their duel as Winston dives on the Sombra, forcing her to translocate. Winston on the side of Bandicoots dives in, but he's forced to back up, and we're still we're seeing picks here from the side of Bandicoots as they get the numbers advantage here. And as
let's take three quick losses there, and they let Bandicoots build up a lot of ults. Like, you look at the difference between the Zarya grab percentage right now. Snopes already has a grab. Blackman's only 40%. Everything else is approximately equal, but that's like a big deciding factor, and it could turn into a nasty snowball if things don't change soon.
Yeah, they already have a great setup right now for the Bandicoots, so bench boys are going to have to find a good opening here to see if they can.
That's I think Snopes disconnected because Snopes were just walking straight up right.
Potentially. Right now, we're in the middle of a fight, though. If there is any incoming pauses, we'll have to wait and see. Right now, for now, Milk pops his primal, getting 2 picks off on Pineapple and Nomad. And we see the bench boys back stalling for time as we wait. And here comes pause.
So yeah, I think they would have had a great chance to win that fight if Snopes didn't just DC and walk off towards the cars.
Yeah.
But even with that unfortunate mistake, the DC, they still have the grab, assuming he gets to keep it. And they have both an EMP and a blade. They don't have a nano, but they still have some good ults coming into this fight.
Yeah, we do see that rally too on their side, so that might give them enough sustain to survive out the fight, especially if they can keep the grab. We do see Asdo get staggered, Asdo and repeat picked off here. So they do have staggered spawns right now as they wait to recover from that DC. They do keep the grab on their Zarya, so that's going to be huge coming into this fight, but we also see 4 ults online on the side of bench boys.
Blackman still hasn't built a grab in these 2 fights. That's not exactly great coming into this. They do get a very good EMP though, so that was excellently orchestrated.
Yeah, the EMP allows for Snopes and Repeat to be picked off by the bench boys, followed by Vantage, and what the Vantage boys are managing to hold their position pretty well. We do see them not currently taking up the high ground, but at this point, actually, they reset to their positions. And just in time as the Bandicoots push up and get grabbed. We see Blade.
They tried to counter grab. Oh, they beefed the Blade. That is unfortunate. So what happened? The bench boys just played more aggressively there. They took the initiative, and they were the ones that initiated that fight and didn't let Bandicoots use their ultimate advantage to equalize that fight out. because Bandicoots built that Grav relatively quickly, but now they've both reset it, and now Blatman's ahead. So very good at equalizing that Zarya Grav ult charge.
Yeah,
And they almost have another EMP when Asdo hasn't had a chance to use theirs.
yeah, we do see them the bench boys with an ult advantage here, but the Bandicoots pop
Milk
EMPs
just
here,
melts.
allowing them to melt through milk, and now they're focusing down Jonathan and Blackman as they go down, and that just gives enough time for them to stall to 99, but it's the Bandicoots managed to take point here. We still sorry, go ahead.
The bench boys have an ultimate advantage coming into this fight. They have the EMP, which is pretty much an instant guaranteed fight win.
Yeah.
Bandicoots needs to play super split because they don't really have any powerhouse ults. They've got a primal, which bench boys also have. An aggressive EMP, but it only catches 2. It could be winnable.
We do see advantage go down to Astergo, and we also see repeat fall down, but Snows managed to get a pick off on Jonathan.
That's massive. That's the tide turner. The rally goes off. Oh, disaster potentially for bench boys. That is disastrous. Their supports are dead. Oh my goodness.
We do see Blade come out, but unfortunately he just melts to the Bandicoots. And Bandicoots take the first round of this map.
They take the first round of the map, and that's incredible given they not only had the DC, but bench boys from the moment they took the point were basically in the driver's seat the entire way through.
Ready for
Yeah.
So it's incredible that they were able to turn it around, especially in a fight where both of their tanks got hit with a deadly EMP. Bench boys just couldn't follow up on it quickly enough to melt both of the tanks, and that ended up costing them in the end.
Yeah, it gave them just enough time to save their Winston with Primal and then stall out for time. And the longer fight ended up in their favor at that point.
Well, Winston wasn't saved with Primal. He just came back with it, but he was still able to use it to get a good pick and knock some people out of position.
Yeah, we see a sim teleporter strat go here and play here as Repeat gets his team ahead and then swaps back to Genji. So that gives the Bandicoots a chance to get to point first and set up faster. We see the little Winston duel between the tanks here, but
no one helps Snopes. Wait.
And we see more.
Vantage is getting melted.
Yeah, we see the attempt to sustain here, which is working out decently, but they're still currently down in numbers. But we don't really see whoever has the strongest point presence yet, because at this point we do see Bandicoots low on HP, which might.
Every Bandicoots member is so low, but it took so long for them to actually die. But the bright side to that, Vantage is using Primal. Alright, you've lost the point, and you used your ult. That's not generally good. I think Vantage was hoping to knock some people off the point. But
potentially.
A Primal like that is very ambitious. You're not going to be able to get a team wipe with Primal usually.
Yeah. He potentially could have been trying to also get out with that, but that still puts them at a small health disadvantage. We see Primal and EMP and Blade all come out at once, with Primal and Nano Winston on the side of Bandicoots.
It does trade for a Blade, a Rally, and a Primal from Bench Boys. But ideally, you want to be winning your fights with the EMP. I think that they just rushed because they knew they had the EMP advantage because Bench Boys isn't running Sombra. But it unfortunately wasn't enough. And now they're going into this fight with a Rally Blade.
Yeah.
Versus a Grav.
Grav and Nano. Potentially, we'll see this Grav used to counter the Blade. But maybe they could even hope
an early Rally.
The rally to build up armor as they dive in, try to get control over the high ground, but the out comes the Grav. They do
They lose the point.
for a few seconds.
But the grab is
but
massive.
Yeah, we just end up seeing bench boys have point back, and ultimately they still have the ult advantage here. Though we do see Grab Primal coming up in play for the Bandicoots. So
The one
we'll have to see
thing
what they make.
Bandicoots bought themselves was another fight with that point flip. But they're gonna need more than that here. They're gonna need a very good primal, and there we go. It just knocks off the Zarya. That's I think the grab did not go where it was intended to go, and that's unfortunate. They still win the fight off of it though.
Yeah, they
The zoning grab zones them back into a terrible position where the team can follow up on it.
Yeah,
So
we.
they're still able to do it. But bench boys didn't have to commit anything. And now they're sitting on 2 DPS ults and a primal of their own. With a lot of percentage to go, this is going to be a tough hold. Unless they build up a fast EMP or get some insane nano value.
Yeah, we do also see the pulse bomb coming out here, but the Zarya ends up ultimately surviving. The nano then comes into play on the
Hawk
side.
dies early. They have no blade for the fight, and Milk gets slept. Oh, that's
Unfortunate.
You hate to see that.
We do see Milk reset to attempt to further prevent staggering.
Saves the primal though, so that's very good.
We do see Primal on both sides, and potentially a Blade and an EMP are going to be used in the next team fight. So we'll have to see how these teams make use of their ults.
If I'm bench boys, I'm saving up for that nano blade. Like I'm having one of my tanks tank damage right now to build that nano, because we're going to need the nano blade if we want to overcome this EMP. If they get EMP'd here, this is likely a lost fight.
We do see the EMP come out right out.
Catches the Genji!
But it catches the Genji, but misses the rest of the team, which gives them a chance to push in here based off of ult.
He has the blade! He stops the rally! Oh, that's incredible. That's exactly what bench boys needed there.
Yeah, we see bench boys end up taking the fight here and capping the point. Unfortunately, that means the Bandicoots will not make it back into the point in time, and so we see the bench boys take a win here on this map.
And it's tied up, but they managed to get it to 99, which is pretty incredible. They only slightly beefed in the sense that they couldn't kill Hawk when they really needed to. And that has to go to, like, you know, since this is a relatively new team that, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have any pre-existing synergy, has to rely on that Mr. Crit coaching.
Yeah.
Because a team that just recently gets together and has this good of coordination, aside from like a few mistakes here and there, like that's, you know, to have the ability and discipline to get it all the way to a close match with one of the theoretically top teams is very good and a very promising sign.
Mr. Crit's a very well-known coach here in the Owlet community.
This is a mirror brawl with Moira, Lucio, the Mei, some McCree. And then the only real difference is Blackman's on the Sigma versus the Zarya. The Sigma provides more flank pressure generally, even with the changes that came, but Zarya helps empowering your Reinhardt. So if you have a really strong Rein, giving them all the time they need might just be what you need. And look at this, Vantage already has the Shatter available and has been making it work. Even though Snopes doesn't necessarily have a Grav built up, and Blackman's more on the Gravitic Flux, I think you can see there that just having the bubble enables your Reinhardt to do so much more, especially when trying to defend from a Mei.
It does. Although you do lack the peel that perhaps a Diva might be able to provide if you get.
Oh no! That was an unfortunate shatter. Right into the shield. Coles both go out, but one team's already down their healer. This is gonna have to be a big high noon.
We do see both the bench boys hide from the noon, but eventually they get.
Wait, can they kill the Reinhardt? Wait, it's a big high noon on the side, on the flank.
Managing to pick off their Lucio, and we see Asto and Repeat go down on the side of Bandicoots. putting the fight heavily in the favor, and then in the win, and then taken over by the bench boys.
And Bench Boys have both of their tank ults coming into this fight. Both very strong ultimates if you can get them off correctly. And having this ultimate advantage that they have, it could be very tough for Bandicoots to push in here. Oh, the grab is used early, forcing out a bunch of ults. But the Blizzard is big, and the sound barrier is not enough.
Bench boys definitely ended up getting favor in that fight, and now they're pushing up, forcing the Bandicoots back into their spawn. We do
Hawk
see
does die.
we do see the May go down on forcing the bench boys to back up.
Yeah, that's a bad loss there, because now Bandicoots have more of a free push in, and they don't have to worry about getting walled off as they just swagger onto point. Coalescence out.
We see both Coalescence come out for unfortunately not pushes up the high noon above the shields, giving Astergo a perfect vantage point for a 2-man high noon.
Disastrous. That is not what you want right there. They tried to defend it and only sealed their fate by trying to defend themselves from the high noon.
As a Mei player, I can tell you that is the most embarrassing thing to happen with your walls.
And now they've switched on to the Genji here. Kind of a late swap. They don't really have any support ults to go with it. It's an interesting pick, and we'll have to see if that one pans out. They get the McCree onto high ground. The high noon's gonna have to be big. Oh, the shatter is massive. That
massive shatter wins the fight for the side of bench boys. And we do see a Moira battling in the Mei on the bottom, but that does not give the Moira
Genji
a chance
touches.
to survive.
Can Vantage get back and hit a big shatter of his own?
We see the huge shatter, but it's not enough. You have to unfortunately touch the points.
He just, the Reinhardt wasn't quick enough.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the rest of the map goes, but that was really evenly matched. We do see a lot of good plays coming out on the side of both teams. We also have seen some really fun matchups so far on this map.
That's been an interesting match thus far.
It was. We now have to wait to see what map will be decided, but in the meantime, what are your thoughts so far on both teams? What do you think they could be doing better? What are they doing really good at?
So, Bench Boys is playing strong. They won the map kind of like as I expected, but Bandicoots definitely came out strong. And I liked what I saw from them, especially holding on to taking the first map and then almost holding on to the second. And they did this even though they had like some struggles. They needed a little bit better on the ult discipline and being able to counter ults. Perhaps they weren't calling that they knew ults were coming in or expecting ults to come in. The only thing I'm seeing is that they need to kind of like rein it in and have a little more discipline on the ult usage, because there were times where they used an ult and if they had saved it, it probably could have been more useful at a later.
I do
or
agree.
throwing away an ult, for instance, the missing of the shatter early in that third map, throwing the Mei ult into the Sigma DM, it's those things eventually pile up. And I think if they clean those things up, they could end up taking not only some maps, but maybe even the entire match.
I do agree. We do see that the Mr. Crit's coaching has come through for them, which means they're putting up a really good fight against the bench boys. I feel like the map could go either way here, but so far the bench boys have a nice strong foothold. We're still waiting on the map to be chosen. Right now, we're looking at, I believe it's, second map would be a hybrid or payload map. Am I correct? Escort,
That's escort.
yes. Yeah, we'll be looking at Gibraltar, Havana, or Dorado for maps, and we'll have to see which gets favored by these teams here. We see Gibraltar picked by the Bandicoots for the upcoming map. Potentially, they're going to be favoring Dive, as we did see their Dive map on Oasis go extremely well, and they definitely had more coordination than the Bench Boys with how they handled it. So
Yeah, we're definitely going to be seeing Dive here. Or maybe some wacky strats, but probably going to be going back to the Dive mirror, at least pretty closely with one another.
yeah, for sure. Especially on first point here, because that high ground is so useful for the dive comp. Second point still has that high ground advantage, but more team comps generally can function better on that closed in space. But overall, dive would probably be the most consistent comp to pick on this map.
Anytime. Yeah.
Apologies for the wait. We are waiting for the map to be started. We apparently the power for the main tank of Bench Boys, Milk, has lost power. So we're going to have to see if we can wait out this power outage for one of the players.
Yeah, at the very least, they're gonna have to like find a ringer.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on, moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Moving on, there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on, moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on, moving on. Moving on, moving on.
Won't you take me to that place? Take me to that place. Won't you take me to that place? Won't you take me to that place? Won't you take me there, man? Because you said enough, you said enough, you said enough. Because you said enough, you said enough.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to.
Hello, and welcome back to the Bench Boys versus Bandicoots game. I'm still here, play caster Elegant Excalibur, and this is my color caster.
Hello. I'm Hyper Knight. I do coaching occasionally.
We've just got back from a break as we waited for the power to return for Bench Boys main tank Milk. We'll now be shortly going into Gibraltar, where we expect to see some dive comp for at
To
least
be locked in Winston jail.
Luckily, we're seeing some different variation on dive with the Zarya play.
We're seeing definitely some variation. This is a comp that's definitely been popularized both by the Overwatch League and contenders. And it's hard to say if it's definitively the best comp, but it's definitely one of the best ones that exist at the current moment. Just because you can enable your monkey to kind of jump, go everywhere, and use Winston's high mobility to get around the map while also giving him that extra survivability. And then Zarya is basically like having an extra DPS when she's at high charge, and Graviton has always been a useful ult.
Plus, she's amazing for keeping your supports alive when they get
Yeah,
doped.
you can also enable or peel for your supports, or enable, like, for instance, if you have a Doomfist, like, you could just let your Doomfist go in and wreak havoc, or your Genji go in and wreak havoc. And having a bubble so you can defensively use it, or even enable one of your DPS to go in and just have extra health is really good.
5,
And now the main comp difference we're seeing here is a Sombra versus a Widowmaker. Widowmaker always strong, but definitely very strong on defense with these long sight lines. And on offense, Sombra makes sense to just run around. Oh, and that's the Widowmaker.
We actually see a Brig shielding the Widow to help enable get those picks like we saw Astergo get on repeat. Winston dives in, but he's going to have to pull back. We see the Sombra setting up, getting the scouting done, trying to find a target she could potentially hack or kill. In the meantime, we do see the Bandicoots pushing carts to underneath the bridge here.
Milk drops and was alone for a while, but the Widow manages to find a pick, and Milk stays alive. Genji bubble, but it doesn't really do anything. And this is the hard part of Gibraltar, is getting past that Widowmaker. Because you have to really ignore the Widowmaker while you focus down her team. But while she's doing that, she has free reign to hit whatever shot she wants.
Yeah, you're probably going to want to send someone in to keep her busy while the rest of your team fights out on point here. We do see Asdo pick off Hawk and Snopes get the Ana pick, leading the way for the rest of Bench Boys to be melted down by the Bandicoots.
Yeah. And, you know, they got really lucky that the Widowmaker just couldn't snap one of them in the face, and Bandicoots did a very good job to be conscious of the Widowmaker and be constantly dodging and moving and weaving to make sure that they didn't get headshot. Now coming into second here, there are a lot of ults on both sides. The only thing that's far away from being built is a nano on the side of Bandicoots. But Snopes gets dropped. That's unfortunate. Bandicoots are going to have to back out unless they can get a pick.
They try to give you a little more cart space, but it costs them as Pineapple goes down and followed by Rapey. And we see the Ana managed to get out with not a Nomad safely with her team now.
Yeah, both teams, there are 11 ultimates on the field. And we're starting off with a Nano Blade. It gets chased out by Rally. So 3 ults burned for 1 Rally. And now EMP catches 2, but no follow-up on the EMP as they dive at the Widow, who just drops.
We do see Bench Boys have the advantage here, forcing out the Bandicoots. While they managed to, for some reason, pop Rally, it does allow for stability, but the armor is not going to last long enough for it to have an impact on the next team fight. The Bandicoots position themselves on the high ground, but the rest of their team gets grabbed by the Bench Boys.
But Snopes uses ult too? That's unfortunate. So, last fight, both teams really threw away a lot of ults, but this fight, they took it as a personal challenge to just, like, donate some more to the other teams. That, you know, Bench Boys comes away with it due to better positioning and having the Widowmaker in a great position, but the teams are just kind of using ultimates without getting a lot of value out of them. Out of all the ults used in that fight, Blackman's grab is the only one that really had a significant impact on the fight. That one.
Yeah, we do see on this specific both teams have their blade up, but no nano. We might see Misfit build up enough of nano to be able to use it in the next team fight. But right now, both teams are hovering, going for the poke damage they need to build up.
Asdo gets caught out, but manager. Oh my! That was a disgusting shot. I don't know if you just witnessed that.
Estergo manages to get that Sombra kill, even as he's close, just by guessing where her head is on that translocator.
Asdo threw the translocator across the map, and as Asdo's teleporting, gets shot out of the air. That's just Widowmaker.
The next team fight is coming out now.
Antied.
We see Milk get
Sorry, is out of position. Both tanks down on the side of Bench Boys. They're gonna need some big Widow shots to turn this around, or a good Nano Blade.
Yeah, potentially the Nano Blade is what helps Bench Boys get this fight back. But for now, we see...
Oh, Hawk gets slept. The early rally, Hawk slept. This is gonna be a tough ordeal for Bench Boys.
The EMP misses the Nano Blade, and then we see Hawk get 2 hits, evening out the fight here. giving it potentially the bench boys could come back here, but then Jonathan goes down once again, giving numbers to the Bandicoots. The Bandicoots most likely have the fight here, but Astergo manages to get a pick on repeat. It's still even though both teams seem to have a strong.
Definitely a messy fight. Wait. The real benefit, so that the EMP seems a little questionable at first, but it melts the main tank of Bench Boys, which, if
Rally and Grav come out from.
I had a thought, but it got taken away by that Grav.
Yeah,
a high charge Zarya does have the ability to clutch a fight, but I think in that circumstance, you cannot commit the Grav when it is your only win condition for this upcoming fight. Now they're coming into this with exclusively a Nano versus a Graviton from the enemy team. And they have to walk into a Widowmaker who has sightlines, who picks up the auto, who has the Nano. Oh no.
We do see spy checking.
Disastrous.
We see spy checking for the Sombra, but the Sombra seems ready to touch. Winston's duking it out with their Brig, but Sombra manages to get the payload ticked into overtime. Grav comes out for the Nano Monkey.
The Vantage was slept, but got woken up. That was almost a big mistake. But
it almost was.
But time ticks down, and there is no more offense left for Bandicoots. It's now up. They now have to put on a pretty valiant defense, and if they want to hold this. The question is, are they going to run a counter Widow, or are they going to stick with the Sombra? They weren't really getting much value out of the EMP, because the reason you run the Sombra is for the guaranteed value that EMP is probably going to win you the fight. But if you're not getting that consistently, then it might be time to switch the comp up.
Well, we'll have to see if the swapping the comp up will be an option here on the defense for Bandicoots. We do see a hog on the side for Bench Boys, but it's might be just a quick for fun.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be swapped. One of the classic, be a different hero in the spawn room type of situation.
Yeah. We do see the Widow, so potentially that might be kept because Astergo was getting some important picks that last round, including that one on the Sombra.
Astergo was dumpstering on the enemy team that entire round, getting pick after pick in almost every fight. So I would be surprised if they weren't at least going to try the Widow on.
We do see the Bench Boys pushing hard before Vantage tries to dive down.
It's melted. He's butter. He's gone.
And in comes Milk, trying to get a pick or at least force them off the high ground, which is accomplished. Astergo and Hawk managed to get picks off on Bench Boys, or on the Bandicoots' two teammates. And that gives them time to push the card up closer and closer to first point. We do see the scouting coming in from Asdo on Sombra, looking for that important hack. And it comes in
goes
with
down.
the pick on Jonathan.
Milk is anti. Can they take advantage of it? Astergo is continuing to find picks. They've got to deal with this Widowmaker.
The Widowmaker is not going to cut it as they managed to get a hold back on the cart for the Bandicoots.
So one thing, the fact that they were able to stabilize there is very good, because now they've got a very good position, and Bench Boys have a long way to walk when it comes to getting back to the cart. As long as they don't get caught out by the Widowmaker, this could be a very good position for them.
Yeah, quite potentially, it will be a very strong hold for them. They do leave the Zarya on the ground as the rest of them hold high point, and that ends up with Astergo picking off scopes. And as well, Asdo gets picks.
They get a pick on the Hawk, but it doesn't do enough. They're just kind of holding out on cart.
We see the Bench Boys get the necessary picks. Vantage tries to stall our card, but
This is
they
a noble hold.
They might
They
actually
have to put a bit. They commit the EMP. Oh my!
Unfortunately, I think on the for the Bandicoots, they do not have the discipline for their ults, which is hurting them dearly here on defense. They still have a few more fights upcoming, but they're sorely on unfavorable side of the ult economy.
They are switching, which is good. If they're going to be committing the EMP, a switch makes it a bit more bearable. But still, for that EMP, you could get a lot of value. It's just unfortunate that it was used in an attempt to kind of stall the cart. But I think. Oh no!
Nanoblade come out as Hawk gets 2 hits. The grab comes out as well, and that's honestly it, as Vantage is the only one left to just melt away on points.
Yeah. They needed the EMP to counter the big ult advantage that Bench Boys had, but they tried to use it because they knew if they lost first, it might have been a roll going into second. And that was a risky decision, and it unfortunately did not pay off.
Yeah, unfortunately, that just made the ult economy so much worse for them. Swapping off to the Widow to duel their own Widow probably was the more poor choice there, because at that point they were already at the risk of being snowballed, and because of that they did get that loss when they could use the EMP to halt that snowball. That said, Bench Boys is now the match is now 2-0 in favor of Bench Boys. Bandicoots still have a chance to reverse sweep this, especially if they catch on to their timing and usage of ults. That is the main thing I'd say is hurting them, like you mentioned before. And we're gonna have to see if this next map will be where they turn around or Bench Boys can take the win here. We're also going to be taking a quick bio break for the side of Bench Boys and anyone else who wishes to participate.
Yeah.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Moving on.
Cause you said enough, you said enough.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. It might take some time, but I'll be alright. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. I know times are tough, but I've had enough. I'm moving on. I'm moving on.
Welcome back. We are now looking at the map Kings Row for the game of Bench Boys versus Bandicoots. If you have not kept up with the score, it is currently 2-0 in favor of Bench Boys.
This could potentially be the final map. Bandicoots' backs are against the wall, and they're gonna need to pull out something strong here if they want to start pulling away, take some maps, and potentially come away with the win.
At the very least, they can at least turn this around and make it a 3-1 instead of a 3-0.
I mean, there's always a chance. It's always winnable until it isn't. But, you know, while they've played well, it's definitely, you know, they're going to need to clean up a few things if they want to challenge Bench Boys. I wouldn't, you know, it's easier to point out Bandicoots' mistakes because they didn't have a Widow that was just popping basically the entire game. But if Bench Boys decide to run, you know, a Widowmaker, they're going to have to figure out a way to not just consistently get gunned down by a sniper, which is very difficult in Overwatch at times. But,
Yeah.
you know.
But we'll see how this map goes. Kings Row definitely is more favorable if you're more mechanically gifted over game sense, because its map design allows for a lot of. It has those long, narrow hallways with a few flanks here and there that allow for a lot of team fights to come very close and be brawly, which enables heroes like Reinhardt and close range DPS.
As you're mentioning, the Reinhardt hero, one of my favorite heroes, and it looks like both teams, assuming they're not playing with our hopes and dreams, are going to be running Rein on this map. Bandicoots is probably switching. It looks like they're going back to a traditional dive, while Bench Boys coming out of the defense, it looks like they're going to switch. They're committing to a very anti-dive comp with the Mei and the Sigma and the Reinhardt.
They're definitely scouting here, looking to see if they can get a hint of enemy teams' comp. But at the same time, we do see potentially a Widow staying with this comp.
Junkrat? No,
5,
surely not.
4,
I don't know what they're doing anymore.
We see a
Bandicoots
Widow
are running
Genji.
something, so they are running the Rein Zarya in the end with a Widow and Genji. Interesting. So they're
going
kind
to-
of going to brawl.
It might be a tough choice though, as the Bench Boys are running the Mei, and Mei is really difficult to go into, especially if you don't have your own Mei. But the Sigma might be an interesting choice here after his nerf. He still has his high damage and shield, but at lesser
Oh,
value.
there's the May wall, and it all comes crumbling down. That's unfortunate. They commit the May wall, and they manage to section off both of the tanks from Bandicoots, and that's hard to deal with, especially if you're not. Well, now they switch to the May of their own. But without like a Lucio to keep your team sped up and together, you're likely going to be struggling. They also switched to Baptiste, which is another way you can try and keep your Reinhardt alive if they get walled off.
Yeah, generally, if you get May rolled and you don't have a May of your own, you want to get to that other side as soon as possible to save your life. We do see a request for a pause here, but unfortunately the fight has started and Blackman commits his flux, allowing them to mow down the Bandicoots. We have a pause now, as they requested, and it seems that Asdo is having some issues of what kind we don't know quite yet, but that will mess with the ult economy for the Bandicoots.
Didn't have too much of the Widow sites, and Widow sites can be impactful, but isn't necessarily like a deal breaker.
That is true, and potentially that allows them to make that swap anyways, so they don't feel too attached to ult charge. They might be able to want to choose an Ashe here to take advantage of that Dynamite and Bob, which actually is close to coming up on Astergo's side.
Yeah. The bench boys have a lot of ults that they can commit here soon. They only use the Gravitic Flux, but in return, that basically gave Baptiste from Bandicoots, not a Nomad, not a Nomad an entire window to use.
For sure. That said, they still have to contend with the Earth Shatter, Blizzard, Bob, and Nano, while they have mainly Rally, Window, and Shatter, unless Snopes can charge that graph extremely fast.
Yeah. Entirely in agreement.
Internet issues seem to be the cause for the disappearance of Asdo. While we wait for the return, what do you think is going to be used in the next fight, and what do you think is going to be the right play here for either team to get the win on this team fight? Hyper?
What?
Sorry, I asked you, what do you think either team's about to do to win the team fight?
My bad. I kind of just was like, they're paused, and kind of just zoned out. So let's see. I mean, bench boys are just gonna keep doing what they're doing. They're gonna keep holding the choke. They're going to use May to pressure the choke, and that's going to be their game plan. And what they're probably gonna do is they're going to commit the Shatter, potentially the Nano if they need to, and quickly wipe out Bandicoots. That's their theoretical game plan. Bandicoots, what they need to do is they need to build their ultimates, and they're going to have to get past the shields for a Shatter or weaken the shields with the Window, or potentially get a pick with their Window and a Fire Strike, which will also be difficult because of the Sigma. But if they can get either one of those two win conditions, those are like their main win conditions that they need to actually push into this. Or when Asdo comes back and presumably onto the Widowmaker, they're going to need their Widow to outduel the opposing Ashe, or find a pick on one of the squishier players on the side of bench boys.
For sure.
Those are the three things that they kind of have to do unless bench boys monumentally beef something.
Yeah, they potentially could throw the bob in the wrong spot or miss their shatter. The Nano and Blizzard might be a little harder to be misplayed here, but it still gives a chance that if the ults all backfire on the bench boys, then maybe you can see the Bandicoots coming through and getting their win on the team fight.
Alternatively to the win conditions that I set up, if somehow Bandicoots can draw out this massive bank of ultimates and save their own just by, like, say, getting a pick and forcing bench boys to panic and overcommit, then that's another way that they could equalize it. Not necessarily in this fight, but then they'd have the advantage going forward, and then it would be on them to be able to use their ults and slam them into bench boys.
Yeah. If they do keep the Widow, I feel like they at least have a nice advantage against Asterigo's Ashe, as Ashe needs that 2 shots unless she gets damage boosted, while the Widow can pick off the Ashe and take the Bob out of the fight. If they can get even just one of the DPS or both of the DPS picked off, that's 2 ults out of the game.
Yeah. They definitely would need to pick off one of those DPS players.
Yeah, for sure. We're still waiting.
Oh, I was going to say, especially because Blizzard is such a powerful ultimate, and previously speaking, Bandicoots hasn't looked great in avoiding the May freeze.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a case of them failing to track ults or if they're just not prepared in time for the ults that is in play.
It's hard to be prepared for a Blizzard that's incoming. There's very little you can do with it unless you're running a very mobile comp.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoy this comp, it's not the most mobile.
Yeah. The best you can do is maybe keep your supports further back so they can save the team.
The general best strategy, I would say, is you send your Reinhardt forward to take the Blizzard on his own, or the Brig, if you can get one of them, to kind of just eat the most of the Blizzard while everyone else kind of vacates the premises from them. And then you commit your bubble to save your Rein, or your Rein is able to luckily just charge out if it's quick enough. And then that's like the best case scenario for a comp like this. But generally speaking, the Blizzard is going to catch at least 1 to 2 people, and you have to be ready either with ults of your own or with something to commit to keep them safe, because otherwise it's just going to be a fight win.
Yeah, not to mention you need to be careful of that wall that can definitely keep you from saving your Rein or your Rein saving himself. Because as a May player, like, I've been through that situation enough that I recognize the save wall for Blizzard. I don't know the experience that Hawk has on May, but potentially he might be able to recognize how he can block off line of sight, at least get a pick on the Rein with the Blizzard, which can be huge for them.
And it's not like Vantage, can get like walled off, has the shatter, it can just shatter the people coming at him. He can't really do that. He doesn't have the ult to even commit to it yet, because they haven't been able to get a bunch of ult charge, because they really haven't been able to get in there and brawl or do anything into that regard. Because Jonathan already used Rally, and it was already 50 to another one. And I think that just shows, when you're on the defensive side and they have to push into you, you can get a bunch more value out of your Brigida when it's a little harder to do that on offense sometimes.
Yeah. We still are waiting for Asuka to return. So in the meantime, what are your favorite moments so far from this match?
The Widow shot onto the Sombra.
I can agree with those.
That was
Really
very,
great
very
shot.
clean shot.
It was. I can say that that's probably my favorite too because watching it happen was just a huge play there.
It was definitely very.
We might have to go to break here as we do not know exactly when Asgo will be returning.
Crit mentioned that at max we'll be waiting 1 to 2 minutes. That's how long he's essentially giving him.
Yeah.
Some days there's no one else who loves me like you used to. Some days I'm not myself. There's no one I can turn to. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last. All the feelings that we shared are in the past. Your relationships are never meant to last.
We return to the matchup. Unfortunately, Asgo has not returned yet, so the Bandicoots are going to have to fight this 5v6. This is going to be an uphill fight, especially with the ult economy being in favor of bench boys, but maybe we'll see them pull off a play here.
Yeah, sometimes playing down means you play reckless, and teams don't expect reckless.
We see a huge dynamite hit that burns away the entire side of Bandicoots, and that just snowballs into the bench boys getting all but 2 of their ults and not having to spend any of them. We see repeat swap off of Mei for the Reaper. They probably are going for the extra damage because they are down a DPS. The dynamite lands again, but only really gets the Lucio. Window comes out and both shatters. Unfortunately, the Bandicoots are picked off. That said, that does leave 3 ults that are available for the Bandicoots while they have Zarya grab coming up. It seems that at this point they're going for a more unconventional comp with Zarya Ball Junkrat. Perhaps
There's not a lot they can really do. They're down a player permanently, you know.
Yeah.
A valiant effort, but
yeah, we do
with
see
all their ults kind of thrown out the window. They definitely have no chance.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's just a side effect of playing in non-land tournaments. Sometimes a player DCs.
The Hog?
Oh, are we?
Hog and the Wrecking Ball.
We see the Zenyatta too, an additional DPS player. Perhaps we'll see an attempt at triple DPS in some form. In some form for a 2-2-2 lock. Even the Battle Mercy comes out. They're probably going for the
shield. One shield down.
They do stabilize with Rally.
Pineapple's down. Oh, the solo blizzard of the Hog.
Forcing Connor to go down.
Someone call Snopes. They're crying. After that one. Oh, the Valiant attempt to stall.
The stall.
Here comes Bob.
But unfortunately, Bob knows his job.
Complete.
You know, that's a good spirit to have. Winnable.
Score
Yeah.
0.
Technically,
Not a
at best, drawable.
Side.
But, you know, maybe they just commit a Bastion strategy and
Yeah.
pull off something very silly.
they're probably going to go for a comp that lets them have fun here. Both
Yeah.
sides are just fooling around with hero selects. Maybe we'll see a hold somehow through the 5v6. It seems unlikely.